Hello explorers and welcome to another little tutorial, and today we're gonna talk a little bit more about Git. Last time we talked about how to start a Git repo and initialize the files. We talked about how to check the status of our Git repository, how to commit new things to the Git repository. We talked a little bit about staging and adding and the differences between those, and also how to amend the commit to change the commit message. And today we're going to talk more about how to work with your local repository. And the first thing I'm gonna do here is talk about diffing. So that's checking the differences between what you have committed before and what's that you can stage at the moment. So let's first check our status here. We don't have any changes, just to show you. Then we can change this from hello world to hello explorers. And we can have two more here. We can have hello world, hello everyone, and hello you fine people. I'm having a really hard time to figure out things to write. So let's check the diff here. So now you see we have a diff with some colors. So we have created some differences, and it will diff the first file with the last file. And here it says that every minus that you see, and those are the ones shown in red, are the changes or the current values from the previous file. So in this case we have hello world, and that was present in the old file. So it says that hello world is the line that is shown in the other file, the first file before we did any changes, and then we have these three lines that are the changes or the version in the new version. So the first line shows the first version of this file, and the second shows the all the other changes. So if we change this back to hello world here, and then do a diff again, we will see that there have just been added two lines from the second file. So the second file will add two lines, and the second file are the changes that we want to make to our Git repository. So we can read this as we add a few lines. If we remove all these lines, then we will have a diff that only shows a red line, and it actually shows also that we have an addition of an empty line here. So if we remove this empty line as well and then check our diff, then we have only the red line saying that the only change I can find in our file at the moment is this row that has been removed. So we can see the hello world A, which is denoted by minus, which was the file before changing, and those are shown in red. And then we have the B file shown with pluses, and those are the changes after you made the change. So those are the result. And if we have this change here, we can start a Git. So let's take the first example back again. And in order to stage this now, we can use stage, but with a new flag, P. And this will put the staging into an interactive mode, so we can look at what kind of hunks we want to stage. And in this case, it shows everything in the file. But if we had a longer file where it actually could partition the different changes in different hunks, you could look at one part of the file and say that this change in the file is something that I want to keep. I could say that I want to keep all the changes from now on. I could say that I don't want to have any changes from now on, and so on. You can read up more about this command, but this is good to know if you want to stage things and you don't want to stage the full file. So if you want to do small commits and actually have the different works, the different amount of work that you did in this file, it might be good to stage it in hunk and just put in those things that are connected together. So you can say that you did, you added auth to your login, and then you also changed some CSS rules, and they might be in the same HTML file. So you had some JavaScript changes and some CSS changes, and you might want to put those in different commits, for instance. The next command that we have talked a little bit about is the and if you have reset, you could actually say that you want to reset to the previous version. So you remove one change from your log, and you could remove a lot of changes and so on. But this is actually just moving the pointer inside of your tree, because one commit has the next commit as a parent of it. So if you create a commit, then the parent of that commit is the previous commit. So if you say that you want to reset 3, then you will reset to the parent and the parent and the parent. So you remove things from the git log. And when you reset, you usually use head to say that you want to go from the head. And then you can use either, if you are in a branch, you can use this up arrow notation, then you will go up in the tree one branching. So you will move, if you have branched the tree down, you can move up out of the branch. And you can also do this tilde, which will move you back a few steps in the master branch. So let's say that we want to go back 2 commits. Let's first look at our log here. So the first is Java, the next is manifesto, and then hacker. So if I git reset head and then 2 commits, my status should be that these 2 are not committed. And if I look at my log, I'm at the hacker point of my git log. So that moved the pointer back in the history of my commit history. So I removed some commits I did earlier, but actually those commits are still there, but I just moved the pointer back. And there's a command to actually fix up your Git repository, but that's usually not required. They don't tend to be that large. So we can stage all these changes now. Git commit the rest of the files. So now we have everything in our Git repository. We have talked about reset, and I have used a command called checkout. And checkout is a good command that you actually can move around in your Git repository and fetch different branches, or you can check out the file. That means that you will pick out the file from the current branch and reset all the changes, so it will actually remove any change that you have done to a file. And to start off and actually do a branching, and branchings could be good to do if you are working in different teams and you want to start with a new functionality and you don't want to hinder the progress of the rest of the team. So you want to try something out on your own, or perhaps you have a workflow that everyone works in their own branch. Then it's very good to create a branch and work in that. and when you are done, you will merge or push your changes into the current working branch that all your colleagues and you are working on. And that could be done with a lot of oversight and so on, so you can have you can use code reviews and so on in order to actually check your commit so it's valid and that you don't commit anything that is not accepted by the team. So to branch something, you could use git branch and then just give it a name, my new branch, and I misspelled that, maybe on purpose. And so now I created my new branch, but I'm not on the branch. I'm currently at master still. I've just created the branch. And if I look at branch, you see here that I have a master branch and I have my new branch. And that branch had a bad name, so I will use branch -d my new branch, and that removed that branch, right? Because I misspelled it, so I don't want to use that branch. But maybe you want to start working with your new branch directly. You don't want to actually create a branch and then check out that branch in order to start working on it. Then you can actually type this handy command of checkout -b, a new branch. So my new branch, and when I have done this, I actually have my pointer on the new branch. So if I type git checkout master, then I'm back to the master branch, and I can git checkout my new branch. So I can switch back and forth between the different branches, and in the branch I can have some changes, and in master I could have some changes. So if we go back to our file here, we can have a few different changes here. Status, let's add that. Added the wrong file. Why are you so hard on me, Windows? Okay, weird way of doing that. Committed the hello changes. Now I have a commit change in my new branch that isn't in master. So if we are in this file, just to show off this change, if I do git checkout master, we see that our file up here changed. So in this case, Visual Studio Code, notice that this file is changed in master. It has some different values, so it would change the appearance. If I check out my new branch, we see the new lines that I added, and those are only in my new branch at the moment. So now we have talked a little bit about branching and checking out, and one thing that you can run into is that when you want to perhaps not create a new branch, but when you later will work with merging or with fetching changes from other people and so on, you can go into situations where your changes at the moment conflicts with the changes that you want to pull into your branch, and maybe you are working at something that you are not ready to commit yet. You don't want to commit it to the history and have a specific log entry for that. Maybe you're just trying something out and so on. And there's a very nice command for this. So if we remove these lines again, so I have a change. You can look here, we have this hello, and let's say that I want to pull something from a friend, and it says that this pull, which is actually a fetch of someone else's things and then a merge, will conflict with your local changes or something to that effect, then you need to remove your changes in order to actually fetch some data. And you still want to keep your changes, you want to track them somewhere. And you could do that by just copy the file to another directory or something like that, but that's very unsafe and not a good way to do that. So in the Git tooling, they have added a command called stash. And stash works like this. If you have, let's say that you actually have a stash, a pile of something, then you take something and put it on the pile, and if you want to get it back again, you pull it off the pile or pop it off the pile. So every time you lay something on the pile, it will be on the top of the pile, and when every time you take something off, you take it off from the top of the pile. So if I do git stash, these changes will be stashed into my local stash. We can look at see here, if you do git stash help, I believe there is a command called git stash list. Yes, so we go to git stash list. We will see that I have something stashed, work in progress on my new branch. On the committed the hello changes. I have done some changes above that commit that I have stashed away that I can pull back again. And I can also do git stash show 0, for instance, stash show stash. Not really sure how to show the stash. Is it like that? Yeah, so there you can see how many changes been made to this stash. Not something that you use often. When you stash something, you usually do it temporarily and then bring it back again. So showing it or something like that is not that interesting. But you can do stash drop to remove something, stash clear to clear it. But the command that I wanted to show off here is stash pop, and that will actually bring your change back into your local working unstaged area, so you can stage these changes and commit them into memory. And when you actually do a pop, they will be removed from your stash as well. So if you do stash list, this list should be empty. You don't have anything stashed any longer. So this is a good way when you are working with your Git repository, have changes and want to temporarily put them aside in order to do some commands and then bring them back when you are done. So this was what I wanted to talk about today. I hope that you learned something, that you found this interesting. Please like this video, share it with your friends. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do that. And I really hope to see you in the next one.